a slide here on screen to illustrate exactly what this is all about. Because sometimes people hear about the SMART plan, they don't realize it actually stands for the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Plan. They think it's just a plan that happens to be smart. Certainly we hope it is, and we know it is. It's been heavily studied by the Florida Department of Transportation, as well as the Transportation Planning Organization of Miami-Dade County. So here on screen, you're seeing in different colors the 6 corridors that make up the SMART plan here in Miami-Dade. So just quickly kind of working clockwise, we have the North Corridor there in purple, which is kind of there at 12 o'clock. And then as you move clockwise, you see the Northeast Corridor, they're shaded in blue, followed by the Beach Corridor at 3 o'clock. And then as we kind of bring it down, you start to see the South Day Transitway Corridor, which kind of goes all the way down to Florida City. You also have a Kendall Corridor now, they're at 9 p.m. They're in kind of red. And above that, you have the East-West Corridor that kind of rounds out the primary rapid transit corridors that make up the SMART plan. Last week, you may have heard in the news 2 exciting developments in relation to the SMART plan. The first of which was that Miami-Dade County was awarded $100 million by the U.S. Department of Transportation to fund their bus rapid transit system, which runs now south of Dayland to points all the way to Florida City. And that basically is your typical bus type product, but it's running on dedicated lanes whereby these buses do not stop as frequently as they would if they were on regular roadways. So think of them as rail-like service on rubber tires, so to speak. And that's going to really dramatically benefit all of our residents to the south of Miami-Dade to provide them with a rapid means to then connect between Florida City and the Dadeland station of Metro Rail. And that's currently the southernmost station for rail in Miami-Dade County, where you have Metro Rail beginning. And of course, that currently runs all the way eastward and ends in downtown Miami. So the project that we're talking about today picks up right there, and that is along the Northeast Corridor. So that's, again, that blue segment that runs parallel to Biscayne Bay north-south. So over the last several months, there's been an increased effort by a variety of partners, both on the public and the private side, to really encourage the county administration and the private sector to work together towards implementing much needed commuter rail along this Northeast Corridor. Not to get too technical, but this Northeast Corridor already has existing infrastructure. This is also the Brightline Corridor. I'm assuming everybody here knows about Brightline and their ambition to connect between Miami and Orlando on a high-speed train service that's already started limited runs pre-COVID, of course, between Miami and West Palm. And they continue to build out their enhanced rail network to take us all the way to Central Florida. So that corridor predates all of us here on this call. This is going back to the ages of Henry Flagler and laying down, that rail infrastructure that really puts South Florida on the map to begin with. So that infrastructure is existing and has been modernized as a result of the Brightline service coming in several years ago. So hence here comes the private-public partnership opportunity for the county versus having to drop, their own railway tracks or extensions to the existing Metro Rail network, which would take over, a few years, if not decades, for them to get it rated and funded and, of course, built. The opportunity here is literally to flip a switch and activate an existing corridor and share it with the private sector to provide public transit commuter service along that corridor. So I'm going to ask Anna to bring up the next slide. And this is a zoom in of that corridor. There are 5 proposed stations that have been earmarked, and we're going to work our way from the north-south. So there you see Aventura, And that station actually broke ground last week. That was approved and funded, again, through a public-private partnership between Florida East Coast Industries, the owner of these railway tracks, and Miami-Dade County. And that'll be a hybrid station. So that'll be where Brightline, high speed, as well as the commuter service come together. So if you're taking this from points north towards the south, you would exit off your Brightline train if you were coming down, say, from West Palm Beach at Aventura, and then step onto this new commuter service, which would then interconnect you with these communities, these various economic hubs and residential areas between Aventura and downtown Miami. So working our way down the map, and I'll ask Anna just to kind of follow along here, you see FIU Biscayne Bay campus, followed by North Miami. As we continue down south, we see the Upper East Side El Portal community. And then as we continue to move all the way down the map, you'll see the Miami Design District and Wynwood Midtown. And then of course that commuter service would end at Miami Central Station in downtown Miami. And again, similarly, if you were coming in from Metro Rail, for example, from Daneland Station, you would come all the way to Miami Central, step off of the Metro Rail, hop on the commuter train, and then you would go back up north all the way up to Aventura. And then if you wanted to continue past that, of course, on Brightline, you could do that by switching at Aventura Station. So really, for the first time, we'll bring much needed commuter rail service to the Northeast Corridor, which is the most densely populated area in all of Miami-Dade County, as well as where we have the largest concentration of commuters and folks that are working and trying to get from points east and west and north and south throughout Miami-Dade. And currently, the only real means to do so from a public transit standpoint is using Metro Bus, or of course, using a car, whether that's your own car or using a rideshare service like Uber or Lyft. So this project in and of itself, if approved in the next couple of weeks, could really dramatically alter the physical landscape of how we get around Miami-Dade. It's projected to take off within the next 2 years, again, because that existing rail structure is already there. They just have to build out 5 stations to accommodate these 5 locations we just discussed. And it could take close to 1.5 million cars off of our roadways, in particular our highways. So when you think of I-95 and the bumper-to-bumper traffic that you may experience in the mornings and in the evenings, while right now folks are working from home to a great degree, we know that right before COVID, and of course, once this pandemic subsides, those traffic patterns are going to reemerge. So the opportunity is, of course, to address the congestion of traffic, but more importantly, provide a safer, greener, and faster way to get across Miami-Dade County. So I'm going to ask Anna just to kind of pull me back up on screen. And while we're obviously sharing all this information, because we have an intimate group, because of this format that ABC has brought together, we're going to have an extensive opportunity for discussion. So I encourage everybody to start sending any questions you may have, comments, or your thoughts through the chat feature here on Zoom. We will definitely get through all of them before we wrap up today. So, again, this project, besides taking cars off the roadways in the COVID and what's happening with our economy, one of the great things about this project being an infrastructure project is that it could also avail itself of federal funds. And that's part of the timeliness of this project. Something like this, could not be done before using just public local dollars or just dollars from the private sector. But those federal dollars coming together with private and local public is really kind of thrusting this forward and has made it a high priority project. Several community organizations along the corridor have also stepped up to indicate their willingness to contribute private dollars to really get this done, and of which we're one of them. The Wynwood Business Improvement District recently announced a $2 million allocation alongside 2 private property owners at one of the proposed locations to really send a strong message to the county that we want to see this happen. And we understand that budgets are very thin at the moment, and there's lots of priorities, not just in the transit sphere, that the county is trying to juggle with their budgets to really get this deal done. So part of our ask today is that you'll also take a moment to visit us online. And I'm going to ask Anna again to call up the website, which is at wynwoodmiami.com. Normally we're promoting our restaurants, our galleries, our special events, but now we're also promoting transit on our website. And we have a great tool that we created at wynwoodmiami.com/rail, which is a very simple tool that we've designed and developed so that folks such as yourselves and residents across Miami-Dade County can take action and can send a short message to the county commissioners as well as to the mayor to underscore their support for this initiative. And I'm happy to say, thousands of messages have already been submitted and sent to the county. We also announced earlier in August the formation of the Northeast Corridor Coalition. This is a group made up of over 40 community groups that span cultural institutions, educational organizations, business leaders that range from the University of Miami to Florida International University, Miami-Dade College, the Adrian Arts Center for the Performing Arts, for example. And these groups have all come together, again, to advocate for improvements to our public transit system, and of course, to support this particular initiative that's before us today. So with that, I know there's been some folks that have joined us recently, and again, I just wanted to reintroduce myself. I'm Albert Garcia, the chairman and co-founder of the Wynwood Business Improvement District, and we are talking about commuter rail and the Northeast Corridor opportunity to bring much needed transportation options to our community. And again, if you haven't already, please send any questions or comments that you'd like for us to further dive into through the chat feature here on Zoom. So, the timeline for this project, earlier this summer in June, the county commission took the item up and it almost passed unanimously, authorizing the county administration, in particular the mayor and the director of transportation and public works at Miami-Dade, to enter into negotiations to formulate a public-private partnership and report back in 90 days. So those 90 days are now upon us, and we expect in the next couple of days that there will be a signal sent from the administration to the county commission that they're ready to come back and for the administration to present their final plan before the county commission for a vote in September. And if that does pass, construction would commence immediately and service could start as early as 2022. So in transit terms, that's lightning fast speed to get a transit project up and running. And again, because of the amount of density and economic activity and the projected growth along the Northeast Corridor, we will see a dramatic improvement, not just in our roadways, but in the quality of life of our residents and in our ability to support organizations such as yours to provide alternative options for your patrons, for your employees to get to and from work from home, as well as to our visitors who are visiting from abroad, who may come from Europe or other large cities around the world where they have much more sophisticated transit systems, unlike the ones we have here in Miami, unfortunately, at the moment. But we're working on that, right? That's what we're talking about today. And that's certainly going to be very attractive to folks who are very comfortable using rail to get around town and provides, again, one more means for our tourists to get from point A to point B. Over the last several years, as some of you already probably know, there's been a Metro Rail extension network that's continued to grow, which now connects with Miami International Airport. And there's plans underway, as you may be reading about in the press, to connect us with the beach corridor, which we talked about at the very beginning as part of the SMART plan. There's conversations for a monorail potentially, or some form of rail system to connect the mainland of the city with Miami Beach. So all of these systems will interconnect. That's the great thing about it. So in the future, if this plan gets approved, you'll be able to go from Florida City to Dadeland, to Wynwood, to Aventura, And hopefully in the not too distant future, you could also detour at downtown and go right to Miami Beach, or go from Miami Beach to West Palm Beach. So, this is a multi-year, multi-decade project. And we're very happy and thrilled to be advocating today on behalf of the Northeast Corridor. So with that, I'm gonna pause, and I'm gonna just check in with our chat. And I know there's been several comments and questions. So somebody did ask how long it would take to build out throughout Miami. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Northeast Corridor plan has already existing rail structure. So that is just basically enhancing the existing infrastructure with 5 new stations that are typically platform stations. So don't think big, grand stations. Think, at the same level as the ground, with a canopy, some landscaping, and you literally can walk on and walk off the trains without having to go upstairs and, take an elevator, for example, like you might have to do currently to take the Metro Rail or the Metro Mover, for example. So think of a tri-rail station if you've ever been on tri-rail and what that looks like. This is kind of similar to that as far as the accessibility at the ground level to get on and off the train. The SMART plan, though, when you talk about the city of Miami and Miami-Dade County, that's a much larger, stretch and a much bigger swing. But that plan, has been approved. It has been studied, and it's a 40-year plan. So we always try to find ways to expedite that 40 years. And again, that's why this particular segment, a very critical one, can get done in less than 2 years. And that's what makes it so attractive. So there was a question asking about, if the Brightline high-speed service is also going to be stopping at these 5 locations like Wynwood, for example. So the short answer is no, because if the Brightline train starts to stop, every so often, it's no longer a high-speed train, and it's not going to be able to get you from downtown Miami to Orlando in enough time to make it an attractive alternative to driving up in your own car, right? Part of the interest in taking the Brightline to Orlando is that it's a safer, faster, greener way than doing it in a car. But if it's stopping every couple of blocks, it may take up to 10 hours to get to Orlando. That's not very exciting, I think, for anyone. So, what they're doing is they have a station in downtown Miami. They just broke ground in a station in Aventura. As you know, they have a station already, probably you may know, in West Palm Beach. And this will continue all the way up to Orlando and eventually Tampa and the Walt Disney World Resort. So that's a separate service, not to get too confusing, but they're using the same tracks. So this commuter rail service that connects with Wynwood, with other points in between Aventura and Miami, think of that as your local commuter line. And then if you want to take that longer high-speed network, there's certain places where you could step on and off, and that would be downtown Miami and Aventura, for example. And that's where you'd be able to step off of the intra-commuter network and then onto that longer stretch high-speed service to take you further north towards Central Florida. So fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you're not gonna be able to take the Brightline train directly to Wynwood, but you will be able to take it to downtown Miami and then step off of that train and onto the next train in the same facility and exit in Wynwood. So I hope that kind of clarifies that common misconception that we hear to kind of address that question. And then also in the chat, I'm hearing a question about the beach corridor, and is that still needing approval or is it still in the works? And the short answer is all of these corridors have been approved. They were approved by Miami-Dade County back in 2016. And actually kind of on a rolling basis since then, they've been allocating dollars for studies, for plans, and for getting all of the technical components ironed out. And of course, like every other transit project, it's just a question of getting the funds allocated, the projects approved and built out. So right now what's going on with the beach corridor is you're hearing a lot of noise about how much is it going to cost, who's going to pay for it, and do we need it, do we want it? Because with transit, there's always people that have that not in my backyard kind of mentality, for better or for worse, because we understand having a train running through your backyard might not be so exciting if you happen to live on the tracks, right? Versus somebody who's using them to commute. So there's lots of quality of life issues that have to be worked out. And with Biscayne Bay, there's also concerns about the environment and how would that service, either improve or, create a detriment to the marine life, right? Where this service is going to be, going over on a rail system. So all of these things are on the table, but we feel pretty optimistic understanding all the players and what's going on both at Miami Beach level government as well as at the county level and at the state level. And everybody agrees, it's a priority and it's not sustainable for the continued growth of Miami Beach for us to continue to over-rely on the MacArthur Causeway and the Julia Tuttle and the Venetian Causeway, for example, as our only means to get in and out of Miami Beach. It's just not sustainable. So transit, what it also does, it really allows us to expand the economic development potential and to keep up with the population growth that we're experiencing here in Miami-Dade County. We're one of the fastest growing regions throughout the entire country. Our roadways aren't getting any wider. Traffic is only getting worse, as we all know. So we have to think of strategic and creative ways to, again, keep up with the growth, but also provide responsible, smart plans, no pun intended, to be able to allow for us to be able to move around. This is really about the functionality of cities. So Miami Beach and that beach corridor is very important for both the residents and the visitors. So I hope that answers the question, but you should be hearing, I think, over the next couple of months, some pretty exciting news. It sounds like all the parties are at the table, and that's really where it begins. And everybody's talking, which means that there's an opportunity there to be had. And it sounds like there's also a lot of will there from the population, from the residents, from the voters who have signaled this is important. So we're fairly optimistic that that segment will probably be the next one after the Northeast Corridor. You'll see the beach corridor come online. So you're kind of just going back into the chat, and we appreciate the compliments as well. I'm glad everybody's excited about what's going on. So again, there was a question about if it gets approved, how soon. So again, if you're joining us, this is using the Northeast Corridor existing rail line system that's currently being used exclusively by Brightline and by Cargo Rail, and putting in stations along that track. So that would expedite the process and allow for service to commence in 2022. So construction would begin later this year for those 5 stations, and those commuter trains could start running literally as early as the first quarter of 2022. So that's a very exciting way to think about this project, is that in 2 years or less, there will be an alternative to driving your car up and down between Miami downtown and Aventura. There was a question about, is there a way to follow the progress of, these projects? So there is a variety of places. I mean, of course, right now you can go to wynwoodmiami.com/rail, R-A-I-L. Or if you just land on our homepage, there's plenty of links there off the homepage. They'll direct you to more information about the Northeast Corridor project and ways that you could be heard to signal your support to the county commission that you're really behind this project. It's very important to hear from everybody, not just residents, but business owners, community leaders such as yourselves. It's a critical opportunity for us to really galvanize support around not just this corridor, but all of our corridors. And beyond that, of course, by tuning into the county committee, the county commission meetings, of course, when they have an item on transit, that's one way to watch. But if you go to miamidade.gov, there is a section there for transit and transportation, and you can always follow there along on the progress as far as the SMART plan, and all the information that we're talking about today is also going to be available there. And you can also go to the Miami-Dade TPO website. That's the Transportation Planning Organization for Miami-Dade. That's where all the various municipalities, all the different cities throughout Miami-Dade kind of come together and they plan for the future of transit in the county. And on their website, there's also information about the SMART plan, and lots of extensive reports and history about how they got to this point. All the studies that have been done over the last 15, 20 years is also there. So if you're a policy wonky buff like myself, there's plenty of data and information there that could probably put you to sleep or wake you up again, and you'll still be there waiting for you to work through and learn more. So again, multiple ways to get information about these projects. And then, as far as the commission support, are there any points of contention that may be an obstacle to approval? For the Northeast Corridor, fortunately, the answer is there haven't been any points of contention, really. The key thing with the Northeast Corridor, again, why it's so interesting for the county and for the private sector, is because the train tracks that are along that corridor are privately owned and they currently exist. Unlike other corridors that have no existing rail infrastructure, which obviously means a much bigger price tag and a much heavier lift to get them off the ground, this particular corridor, the Northeast Corridor, already has that heavy lift in place, that rail infrastructure. So it's really about working out a relationship between the county and the owners of that rail corridor. That's Florida East Coast Industries. That's the parent company of Brightline, to be able to share those tracks so that there's a public commuter rail service, and then you have that private, Brightline high-speed service. So that's a different way of looking at transit, because normally in Miami-Dade, all of our public transit systems are 100% run by government on assets that are 100% owned and operated by the county. So when you think of Metro Rail, for example, all of those tracks, not just the actual Metro Rail trains, are owned by Miami-Dade County. So that's a huge investment and a huge project. So to continue to do something like that and run it north along the corridor is possible, but it may take decades and hundreds and hundreds, if not billions of dollars to get it all funded, approved, and built. So it's something that we may not get to see in our lifetime. So again, that's really the opportunity. So it's not so much the contention as it is the opportunity with this type of a partnership to get this project done. And I really appreciate that in the chat, we're getting all these questions, and we're also pushing out links simultaneously. So if you want to, dive off while we're talking and open up your browser to get more information, if you see anything there that you want to ask in real time, feel free to do so. So, with that, I think we're kind of getting towards the end of our session today. So, again, to kind of look towards the future, we're really looking for organizations, business leaders such as yourselves, to also join our coalition. Again, we created this Northeast Corridor Coalition, which is comprised of over 40 community organizations. That includes University of Miami, Florida International University, Miami-Dade College, the Adrian Arch Center, Uber, Lyft, and a variety of groups and organizations that have nothing to do with transit, but they have businesses here. They have employees here. They cater to visitors and residents alike, and they see the benefit to having a service like this implemented, which is also very good to support our existing business community, such as yours. Because the number one complaint we hear from visitors, and I think I saw John from the GMCVB here, is traffic. So this is definitely the way to address traffic. You could add more lanes to I-95, but all you're doing is piling in more cars. Something like this is designed to get cars off of the highways and off of the roadways. And it also complements, all of these new e-scooters and e-bikes and all of these new rideshare options that are coming into the market. We call those the first last mile providers. You're not going to probably take a Uber scooter or a Lyft bike from downtown to Aventura. Some folks might. I'm not one of those. It's very hot here, humid. I don't think I could survive in the humidity that long on a bike, but I aspire to maybe one day be able to do that. But in reality, you could take the train to one of these stations and then grab one of those scooters or one of those trains for that last mile connection. You know, we're talking about those next 5, 10, 15 blocks that connect you from that train station, from that rail station to your final destination, or from your home, for example, when you're starting your daily commute. And that's how all these systems start to interconnect and really complement one another. There's no one easy fits all solution to Miami's transit woes, nor for any metropolitan city like Miami for that matter. So it's about all these building blocks and getting all these layers up and making sure that all of these systems communicate with each other and really are rooted in improving the quality of life of our residents as well as our visitors. So I'm just gonna have time probably for about 2 more questions. So we did get some questions about, you know, how can I promote this? We're happy to join and spread the word. So thank you for that. If you go to our website at wynwoodmiami.com and you click on the little train icon, it's all over the homepage. It'll direct you to how you can reach out to me. And if you want to join our coalition, we'd love to have you. You could also drop me an email at info, I-N-F-O, at wynwoodbid.com. So that's I-N-F-O at Wynwood, W-Y-N-W-O-O-D, B as in boy, I-D as in David.com. And I have a great team that's very excited about transit. And of course, if you want to ask any questions about Wynwood, where we're headed as a community, what we're working on, and if there's opportunities for us to collaborate with your business, even if you're not in Wynwood, we love to work with other folks throughout Miami-Dade. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. And I want to thank the team at the Arts and Business Council for inviting me today, and for all of you who tuned in to learn more about transit. So I hope to see you in the near future when it's safe again. In the meantime, I'm a virtual call away. So again, don't be shy, reach out if we can be of any support to you as a community here in Wynwood. So with that, I'd like to just thank Anna for her help today in setting up this call. And again, for everybody who joined us today.
Thank you so much, Albert. I know we have many more questions as we keep going, but maybe we have time for one more.
Sure. I'm happy to take a few more questions if folks still want to get more information. Sometimes I think I'm, talking about something that folks might get excited about, but I'm definitely excited about it. So by all means, we have a couple more minutes left. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for some businesses are asking if there's a time frame that has been set on of running time for the commuter trains. Do you have a heads up on that?
Sure. Yeah, so unfortunately, we don't have any details yet because certainly the plan is still very much being ironed out. The details are being worked on literally as we speak. But typically, what you should expect is a service that's running at least every 30 minutes. It means that at every station, every 30 minutes, there's a train that's coming through. It doesn't mean it takes you 30 minutes to get to the next station. It just means that there's going to be trains continually running, similar to Metro Rail. And then that'll, again, run in a loop between downtown Miami and Aventura and, just go north-south, north-south. And then again, you could step off at downtown Miami or Aventura to either grab the Bright Line and continue on north, or step off at downtown and get onto Metro Mover, Metro Rail, or Tri-Rail for that matter, and continue on to points west into Miami-Dade County. One thing I didn't point out, the commuter plan, the commuter network plan that we're talking about today, the Miami downtown to Aventura, that's phase 1. There's multi-phases for this commuter service network. And it eventually will connect you all the way up to Jupiter. So it will go through Broward County, through West Palm Beach, all the way up to Jupiter. So the folks up in Broward and Palm Beach are also as excited as I am, and as I hope all of you are today on this plan with the Northeast Corridor, because it really is the first piece of the puzzle to a larger network that will run, again, from Miami to Jupiter. So again, separate from the Brightline network that goes from Miami to Orlando, this is about connecting all of these cities and communities along the East Coast of Florida. So the folks from Broward are already reaching out, excited, wanting to learn more, and their governments and their various communities along the tracks as well are already getting ready in anticipation of this getting approved here in Miami-Dade County. That will be the next phase of this commuter network. And then you'll see it happening again in Palm Beach. So again, you might be able to get from Wynwood to, Boca Raton or to Jupiter, hopefully within our lifetime. I'm pretty confident of that. We're going to work hard to make sure it's very, very soon so we can all enjoy it. Hope that answers the question about schedule and timeline.
Yes, I think it did. So if we have no further questions, thank you so much, Albert.